Hello, my name is Latif Al Maktoum. I was born on December 5, 1985, and I'm making this video because it could be the last video I make. And if you are watching this video, it's not such a good thing. Either I'm dead or I'm in a very, very, very bad situation. So where do I begin?
Sheikha Latifa Al Maktoum hasn't been seen in
the
public
United
since
Nations Human Rights Office
She
has
is a
not
princess
received
and she claims a prison.
Last week, the desperate plight of Princess Latifa caused worldwide shock and concern. In secret video messages,
Sheikha Shamsa bint Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum is an Emirati princess and a member of the Dubai ruling family.
This is Princess Latifa bint Maktoum bin Rashid Al Maktoum. She is the daughter of the ruler of Dubai, and this footage is from a 39-minute video recorded in early 2018, just before her escape from the country. The first thing to establish in this story is that Princess Latifa's father, Sheikh Maktoum bin Rashid Al Maktoum, who we'll just be calling Sheikh Maktoum from now on, has done a lot of shady shit in his lifetime. Acting as the ruler of Dubai since 2006, he's overseen the city grow at an incredible pace over the last 2 decades, but has also been caught up in some truly dark shit. Highlights include using at least 250,000 foreign slave laborers to work on infrastructure projects, harsh crackdowns on media outlets, detaining and torturing activists, imprisoning women for reporting sexual assault, and executing homosexuals. If this isn't personal enough, he was also accused of encouraging the abduction and enslavement of children to be used in camel racing, the murder of a member of his extended family, and the general abuse of his daughters.
After my uncle died, he killed one of his wives. He killed her. Everyone knows about it. So all of this public image that he's trying to portray human rights is bullshit. He's the most evil person I've ever met in my life. He's pure evil. There's nothing good in him.
As a result, Sheikh Maktoum's daughters have long tried to leave the country and escape this less than healthy environment, first starting in July 2000, when Princess Latifa's older sister, Shamsa, made an escape while on holiday in southeast England. She was later tracked down by a team employed by her father before being forced into a car, sedated, and then flown back to Dubai on a private plane.
Yeah, after 2 months, they found her. Basically, she was on the streets, and a bunch of guys in a car just drove up. They found her, they grabbed her, kicking and screaming, threw her in the car. She was drugged and basically put in this building, and she was kept there and locked there.
2 years later, Princess Latifa makes her own attempt to escape when at the age of 16, she's caught trying to leave the United Arab Emirates at the Oman border. She was subsequently brought back to Dubai and jailed for 3 years and 4 months. She later claimed she was kept in solitary confinement and underwent torture.
Yeah, they put me in prison and they tortured me. Basically, one guy was holding me while the other guy was beating me. And they did that repeatedly. They told me that your father told us to beat you until we kill you. That's his orders, your father's orders. Your father, the ruler of Dubai, that's what he said. Prison was not a normal prison experience. It was constant torture. You know, after the torture sessions, I couldn't even walk. So I would crawl to the bathroom to get water, to open a tap to get some water. I would just crawl on my hands and knees. There was no medical help at all. They didn't care. They wanted me dead anyway.
Over the next 13 years after her release, she stayed in Dubai, subsequently witnessing other members of her family be incarcerated, tortured, or even murdered for stepping out of line. In early February 2018, she makes her doomsday recording in case things go south, and a few weeks later, finally makes her move. This time, however, she wouldn't be doing it alone, so let's meet the escape party. The first is Tiina Järrycan, a Finnish citizen and fitness instructor who she first met in 2010. Out of the whole escape crew, Tiina is just an ordinary person who wanted to do right by her friend. The next is a British human rights lawyer by the name of David Hay. A human rights lawyer is obviously a good person to have on your team for this sort of operation, But for Mr. Hay, this was beyond personal. Up until 2014, he worked for a Dubai-based investment bank until he was accused of embezzlement and sentenced to 2 years in prison. When he was finally released in 2016, he took the United Arab Emirates to the United Nations for breaches of human rights, torture, unfair trial, and arbitrary detention and discrimination on the grounds of sexuality. This man had no love for the ruler of Dubai. The last, and probably most interesting member of the team, was Hervé Joubert, a former French Navy officer, engineer, and spy, who operated during the final years of the Cold War. After his retirement from serving the French government, he moved to Florida, where he used his skill set to start a company which made recreational submarines. In 2004, he was visited by a prominent businessman from the United Arab Emirates, who invited him to set up shop in Dubai, which he later accepted. After the 2008 financial crisis, this new venture in Dubai hit hard times, and Mr. Joubert was found guilty of embezzlement and sentenced to 5 years in prison. As there's obviously a clear pattern for foreigners to be accused of this crime, it's not certain whether this embezzlement accusation was legitimate or whether he was simply used as a scapegoat for the failure of the business. In either case, as a fucking ex-spy, he wasn't about to take this shit lying down. Mr. Joubert snuck into the city of Fujairah, where a frogman kit was smuggled to him in parts. Then, one night, he suited up, disguised himself in women's clothing, slipped out of the hotel under the cover of darkness, and made his way to the beach. He then swam to the area's only police patrol boat at a Coast Guard station, climbed aboard, then clogged its fuel lines. The next morning, he escaped on a small rubber dinghy and waited for 6 hours in international waters before he was picked up by a former spy friend in a sailing boat. 8 days later, the two made shore in India, where he then caught a plane back to Florida. As a leading expert in escaping Dubai authorities, Princess Latifah contacted Mr. Joubert in 2011, and with her friend Tina Yayainen acting as a go-between, they formulated a plan to escape. If all went well, Tina would get her friend out of the country. David Hay would have helped someone escape more of the same fate that he had previously endured, and Hervé Joubert would be able to blackmail one of the richest men in the world for a planned $3 million. The plan was laid, the team was assembled, and the only thing left to do was to enjoy today's sponsor. If you're looking to listen to music on the go, but don't want to wear your RGB headset on the bus, then Raycon's wireless earbuds might be what your life is missing. I've owned my pair of Raycons since the start of 2020, and I absolutely haven't been disappointed, as the case is small enough to fit in the palm of my hand, and the 6-hour battery lasts long enough to watch Cars 2, 3 times over. Not only do they also sound exceptional, with skull-rattling bass, but once you try Bluetooth pairing wireless earbuds, you'll refuse to ever be a slave to wires again. Raycon is really easy to recommend, as not only are they half the price of other premium earbuds, but if you're even 1% unsatisfied, they'll give you a full refund within the first 45 days, for any reason at all. On top of this, going to buyraycon.com/surswag will get you another 15% discount for a limited time, or just click on the link in the description like a normal fucking person. Raycon, adapting to the extinction of the headphone jack. On that fateful morning, on the 24th of February, Princess Latifah and Tina Yayainen traveled by car and successfully crossed the border to Oman. They then drive to the coast, swap to jet skis, and make their way 42 kilometers off the coast into international waters. They then meet up with our former French spy, Mr. Joubert, who takes them aboard the American chartered yacht, Nostromo. 2 days later, Latifah makes contact with David Hay, while also announcing the reason for her departure on social media. After 5 days of sailing in the open ocean, Mr. Joubert contacts an Indian journalist in preparation to end their journey. The plan was just like his escape 10 years before. Sail to India, get on a plane, and seek asylum in the United States. With this in mind, Sheikh Maktoum wasn't about to let his daughter escape that easily, and by using a signaling system exploit to locate Mr. Joubert's phone, he had caught on to their escape strategy. However, with the Nostromo getting dangerously close to Indian territorial waters, his window to capture the princess was quickly closing. Diplomatic sources claim a direct phone call between Sheikh Maktoum and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi took place shortly afterwards. A trade was proposed for the princess in exchange for a British businessman being held in Dubai. The British national had been caught up in a scandal which involved bribing Indian officials to win a lucrative helicopter contract, but none of that is very important for the story. At the end of the phone call, the deal was sealed. A day after contacting the Indian journalist, Mr. Joubert notices 3 vessels following him on his radar. To confirm his suspicions that they were being ghosted, he slows down to just 5 knots, a speed much too slow for anything outside of a fishing boat. This was a terrible sign. When the sun went down that same night, 2 unmarked speedboats carrying between 6 to 8 members of the Indian Special Forces were launched from these sailing ships and made their way aboard the Nostromo. After using stun and smoke grenades to disorient the passengers, Indian Special Forces handcuffed Mr. Joubert, hit him across the head, and held him to the floor at gunpoint. While the rest of the crew was being handcuffed, Princess Latifah was in the ship's bathroom, sending one last message to a colleague of David Hay, telling them she had heard gunshots. Subsequent messages failed to send, as an Indian aircraft overhead had jammed the signal. The Indian men then pulled her out of her cabin, while she screamed that she would rather be killed on the boat than go back to Dubai. She attempted to claim political asylum, but her request was subsequently ignored. Once the Nostromo was secured, at least 10 members of the United Arab Emirates military came aboard, tranquilized Princess Latifah, and took her back to Dubai. The rest of the crew were taken into custody, and just like that, an escape plan 7 years in the making came to an end, just 50 miles off the Indian coast. After her life was threatened during the yacht raid, Tina Yayainen was returned to Finland within a week. Despite threats from the UAE government to stay quiet, she gave an interview almost immediately after her return. Miss Yayainen now runs the Free Latifah campaign full-time, which was first started roughly a year after the escape attempt. Having suffered PTSD after his time in a Dubai prison, David Hay co-founded a legal advocacy NGO which provides pro bono legal advice to victims of injustice, inequality, and other human rights abuses in the Middle East. Already a wanted criminal in the United Arab Emirates, Hervé Joubert was blindfolded and taken to a secret prison. While incarcerated, he told a local that he was almost certainly going to be shot, to which he replied, "Not shot, your way out will not be that easy." Ultimately, he was saved by both the video Latifah released while making her escape and by already being on a missing persons list in the United States. It seemed as if Sheikh Maktoum didn't want to draw any more attention than necessary. Once freed, Joubert sailed for 13 days towards Sri Lanka, knowing that it would be all too easy for the UAE military to hit his boat with a missile strike, eliminating a key witness and any potential evidence. This was not to be, as he later returned home from the ordeal and went on to publish the 2019 book, Princess Latifah and the Spy. Latifah's older sister, Shamsa, who was captured after escaping in England, spent the next 8 years of her life imprisoned and drugged by her family. She has not been seen in public for over 20 years, and it is unclear whether she is still alive. After being flown back to Dubai on a private jet, Princess Latifah didn't wake up until she was already back where she started. She would not be seen again by the public until later that year on Christmas Eve, where she appeared in photographs with Mary Robinson, former United Nations Commissioner for Human Rights. Mrs. Robinson called Princess Latifah a troubled young woman in an interview shortly after her visit. She also claimed that the princess regretted releasing the video which spoke on the abuses she suffered at her father's hands. These comments drew heavy criticism from human rights groups around the world, who speculated that her visit was a PR stunt to quell any suspicion of mistreatment. In a much later interview in February 2021, Mrs. Robinson claimed that she was tricked by one of Sheikh Maktoum's wives and was not aware of the circumstances surrounding Princess Latifah. Both Latifah's first cousin and David Hay claimed that she appeared forcibly medicated in these photos. In early 2019, Tina Yayainen receives a message from a stranger claiming to be in contact with Latifah, and after passing a number of security questions, manages to slip a phone into her possession. It was found that Latifah was being held in an undisclosed villa. She was unable to leave the premises, talk to anyone from the outside, had no access to medical care, and all windows had been barred shut. She was unlikely to have seen sunlight for over a year. Despite her premises being guarded by as many as 30 police officers, regular contact is made with Latifah, and she starts to make videos in her bathroom, the one room where the door will lock. Sometime after March 2020, David Hay realizes his messages are no longer getting through, and contact with Latifah is lost. Despite requests from the United Nations, the UAE has not been able to give any information of Latifah's whereabouts, or even evidence that she is still alive. As of time of writing, this isn't a story with a happy ending. It's a foiled, desperate attempt at freedom for a person whose only crime is being the daughter of one of the most ruthless and powerful people on the face of the planet. Being born into royalty is often seen as winning a golden ticket in the lottery of life, but in this instance, it means living a torturous existence of solitude, deprived of life's great luxuries, like to hug a friend, feel the warmth of the afternoon sun, and to breathe a lungful of fresh air. As you're watching this, Latifah is either living this cold excuse for an existence every waking day of her life, or she's already been unceremoniously buried by an even colder man, a man who she has the misfortune of calling a father.
Pretty soon I'm going to be leaving somehow, and I'm not so sure of the outcome, but I'm 99% positive it will work. And if it doesn't, then this video can help me, because all my father cares about is his reputation. He will kill people to protect his own reputation. So I need to make this video in case I don't make it. It's not gonna be in vain. Somebody will have some footage. I have to remember to say everything, because this could be the last video I made. I don't know what else to say. I don't know what else to say.